In 279 BC, the Italian peninsula witnessed one of the fiercest and most thrilling battles between the Greeks and the Romans, known as the Battle of Asculum. This battle was part of the Pyrrhic War, a series of conflicts between Rome and one of the most famous historical figures of that era, King Pyrrhus of Epirus. This battle was not just a confrontation between two armies, but also a meeting between two cultures and different concepts of warfare and domination. Let's explore the fascinating details of this battle and how it became a symbol of costly victory that could be more damaging than defeat itself. Historical background. In the first half of the 3rd century BC, Rome was rapidly expanding across the Italian peninsula, aiming to unify all the Italian peoples under its rule. In contrast, the Greek cities in southern Italy, known as the colonies of Magna Graecia, were concerned about Roman expansion. When Rome began to set its sights on the city of Tarentum, the city's inhabitants felt threatened and decided to seek support from outside. This is where King Pyrrhus entered the scene. Pyrrhus of Epirus was one of the finest military leaders of his time, and his ambition was to become a great emperor, following in the footsteps of Alexander the Great. He seized the invitation from Tarentum and decided to come to Italy with a massive army to confront Roman expansion and ensure the continued Greek influence in the region. Pyrrhus's arrival and preparations for battle. Pyrrhus arrived in Italy with a powerful army consisting of 25,000 infantry, a strong cavalry, and 20 war elephants, which the Romans had never seen in battle before. The elephants were a formidable force in combat, capable of causing chaos and fear among enemy soldiers. On the other side, the Romans relied on their traditional legionary forces, which were well disciplined and organized. They were ready to face the challenge, despite the fact that Pyrrhus's use of elephants was a new threat to them. The first battle, Heraclea. Before the Battle of Asculum, Pyrrhus faced the Romans at the Battle of Heraclea in 280 BC. In that battle, Pyrrhus managed to achieve victory thanks to his superior tactics and the elephants that terrified the Roman soldiers who were unfamiliar with dealing with such units. However, despite this victory, Pyrrhus suffered heavy losses, making him realize that winning the war against the Romans would not be easy. The terrain at Asculum. The Battle of Asculum took place in a rugged terrain near the town of Asculum in Italy. The area was filled with forests and hills, making it challenging for both armies. Pyrrhus tried to take advantage of the terrain by positioning his forces in a way that would prevent the Romans from using their traditional tactics. Pyrrhus placed the elephants at the front of his army, aiming to disrupt the Roman ranks and break their formation before advancing with his infantry and cavalry. On the other side, the Roman consuls devised defensive plans, preparing traps and fortified positions to slow down the elephants and weaken their impact. The beginning of the battle. On the morning of the battle, Pyrrhus launched his attack by moving the war elephants towards the Roman front lines. The elephants were an unfamiliar weapon for the Romans and caused a temporary retreat in their ranks. The elephants continued to advance slowly, crushing everything in their path. But the Romans had learned from the Battle of Heraclea and began using new tactics, such as targeting the elephants with heavy weapons and spears from close distances. The rugged terrain also posed a challenge for the elephants, which found it difficult to move freely. The intense fighting. After the elephants advanced, direct combat between the infantry began. The battle was extremely fierce, with soldiers clashing with swords and spears in continuous combat. Pyrrhus's forces consisted of highly trained Greek warriors with significant experience in traditional battles, while the Roman soldiers relied on the flexibility and organization of their legion formations. The battle raged throughout the day, with neither side able to achieve a decisive victory. Pyrrhus used all his tactical skills and personally led his soldiers, urging them to fight fiercely. On the other side, the Romans demonstrated remarkable resilience, constantly reorganizing their ranks and resisting the continuous attacks of the Greeks. The decisive moment. On the second day of the battle, Pyrrhus decided to use a portion of his forces to outflank the Romans and encircle them from behind. This move was partially successful, as he managed to trap part of the Roman army and force them to retreat to a safer position. However, despite this tactical success, the losses in his ranks were enormous, and it was clear that the battle was depleting his capabilities significantly. After 2 days of fierce fighting, both sides withdrew from the battlefield without achieving a decisive victory. Although Pyrrhus considered himself the victor, the victory was extremely costly. He had lost a large number of his soldiers and knew that such losses could not be easily replaced. A Pyrrhic victory. After the battle, Pyrrhus famously said, "If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined." This statement gave rise to the term Pyrrhic Victory, which refers to victories that come at such a high cost in terms of human and material losses that they are not worth the benefits gained. Consequences and aftermath. The Battle of Asculum was one of the battles that demonstrated the strength and resilience of the Roman army, as well as the challenges of expansion for King Pyrrhus. Despite Pyrrhus's victory, he was unable to exploit it to achieve his larger goals in Italy. After this battle, it became clear that his war against Rome would not be easy or profitable, especially as he continued to suffer heavy losses in his ranks. Eventually, Pyrrhus decided to withdraw from Italy and return to Epirus. Despite his bravery and his ability to achieve battlefield victories, he could not withstand the enduring strength of the Romans and the increasing pressure that Rome exerted continuously. Significance of the Battle of Asculum in history. The Battle of Asculum was one of the most important battles that helped shape the course of ancient European history. Rome, at this time, was learning from each confrontation and adapting to the tactics of its enemies, which helped it develop its army and military tactics. In contrast, the battle showed the limits of Pyrrhus's power and the difficulty of maintaining victories in the face of an enemy with organizational capabilities and strong determination like Rome. This battle showed that victory on the battlefield alone is not enough to achieve strategic objectives, and that the cost of war can be greater than any potential benefit. These lessons that Rome learned in its encounters with Pyrrhus later helped it achieve decisive victories against other enemies and expand its empire in an unprecedented way. Conclusion. The Battle of Asculum was a true test of will and strength between the Romans and the Greeks, showing how far both sides were willing to sacrifice to achieve their goals. Although Pyrrhus achieved a tactical victory, the heavy losses he suffered made it difficult for him to continue his campaign in Italy. In the end, this battle was a lesson that military victory is not always synonymous with political or strategic success, and that the cost of victory can be so high that the victor finds themselves unable to continue the fight. Video conclusion. The Battle of Asculum was one of the pivotal moments in the history of the struggle between the Greeks and the Romans, and became a symbol of the great sacrifices that can outweigh the gains. The Romans learned from this battle, and their later experiences led them to become the great power we know in ancient history. As for Pyrrhus, despite his military prowess, he realized that some victories are too costly, making them ultimately not worth the price paid.